and by contributions to your PBS station from viewers like you. Thank you.
Originally, I was going to do an entirely different video, but this manga has been living in my head rent-free. It's been days since I finished it, and I just can't stop thinking about it. I need to use this video as a way to vent out my grievances. Boys on the Run is one of the very few manga to really irk me. I've never had a more frustrating experience reading a manga in my life. Not necessarily because I think the writing is poor, but because the story is perfectly crafted to make you angry. The author uses a Murphy's Law style of writing. Anything that can go wrong will go wrong sums up the entire manga. If you're a curious cat that wants to check out the manga for yourself, I have to give you a couple warnings. Number 1, if you enjoy being happy, then don't read this manga. A vast majority of this series is a miserable experience. Number 2, if you don't want to become a misogynist, then don't read this manga. Some of the women in this series are so insufferable they could transform a male feminist into a red pill podcaster. Number 3, if you hate NTR or getting cucked, then don't read this manga. The author might have a severe cuckold fetish. And the most important warning of them all, number 4, if you hate weak loser MCs, do not read this manga. A lot of people online get really heated if a protagonist shows any sign of weakness. I have a very high tolerance for protagonists that are weak or cowardly, but I can perfectly understand if you can't sit through this manga because of the MC. The only demographic I can recommend this manga to are the sadistic bastards who enjoy watching a man's life get ruined. I've been hyping this up long enough. Let's finally get into it. Our man of the hour for this story is Tanishi. To put it bluntly, Tanishi is everything teenage boys fear becoming. He has an extremely mundane and trivial lifestyle. He has a shitty job. He's way past his prime. He's got nothing going for him. And he's extremely lonely. He also gets beat up by a fat prostitute. Yeah, that happens to me all the time. He's a direct opposite to his rival, Ayoyama. Ayoyama has everything Tanishi wants. He's got the good looks. He works at a similar yet superior company. He's popular and charming. He's at the top of the social ladder. Tanishi could only dream of being half the man Ayoyama is. Tanishi's life so far has been pretty pitiful, but one day he finally catches a break. He starts talking to this one girl at work named Chiharu, and they get a couple of drinks together. The two surprisingly hit it off and have some chemistry. While the two are under the influence, they make a crazy agreement. Chiharu will give Tanishi one of her favorite mangas in exchange for one of his porn videos. It was an insane idea, but the two were drunk. Tanishi doesn't want to give her anything too fetishy, so he decides to give her something normal, something inoffensive, something vanilla. However, things get mixed up and he accidentally gives her the worst type of video imaginable. A bestiality video. You'd expect things to be over at this point, but Tanishi runs into Ayoyama. Unexpectedly, Ayoyama gives him some great advice and helps him out of trouble. He even goes as far as to set up a double date so Tanishi and Chiharu could get together. The four of them have an amazing night together, all thanks to Ayoyama. This part of the story really made me think, wow, Ayoyama's the ultimate wingman. He's even generous enough to help out a loser like Tanishi. He's a lot nicer than I thought. Ayoyama's assistants lands Tanishi in a love hotel alone with Chiharu. Don't get your hopes up too early now. They don't do anything together, but the two are closer than ever now. They share some heartfelt moments in these early chapters. It's the start of a blossoming relationship. I think I understand what this manga is going to be about now. It's going to be a series about an inexperienced couple who will encounter struggles within their relationship, but they'll develop an unbreakable bond with each other despite their flaws. Every obstacle they encounter won't stop these two from living happily together. A classic romance manga filled with wholesome moments that will melt your heart. But boy, I was wrong. So wrong. A couple of days later, Chiharu ends up sick. After seemingly receiving a text message from her, Tanishi goes to her home to pay a visit. But when he knocks on the door, it's someone else entirely. We're introduced to Chiharu's neighbor, Shiho. She's a seductive prostitute who works in the red light district. Turns out she's the one who messaged Tanishi to come over. Chiharu kept on talking about wanting to see Tanishi, so Shiho brought him over. Shiho then leaves the other two to head off to work. Once again, they're alone, together. Though nothing frisky happens between them. It gets late and Chiharu has fallen asleep, so Tanishi heads home. But as he's leaving, he spots Shiho passed out on the stairs. It's at this exact moment Tanishi ends up making the worst decision in his entire life. From this single mistake, everything falls into a downward spiral. Tanishi helps Shiho back into her apartment. In her room, Shiho tells him some important information. She mocks Tanishi for being such a dense idiot. She explains that Chiharu wanted to have sex with him so badly, but he still hasn't realized it yet. Since Tanishi stayed at Shiho's place for too long, he missed his train and had to spend the night. He ends up seeing more than he should have and gets completely bricked. He tries to take care of his little buddy quickly, but since he's the unluckiest guy on earth, he gets caught. But Shiho doesn't get mad or disgusted at all. She instead laughs uncontrollably and gives him an offer. She wants to give him a BJ to relieve him of his stress. They shockingly go through with it and Tanishi blows his load prematurely. All of a sudden, Chiharu walks into the apartment. Tanishi quickly hides behind the closet. While hiding, he listens to Chiharu and Shiho's conversation. Chiharu confesses that she likes Tanishi. She goes on and on about all the things she likes about him. It's a really sweet moment that unfortunately gets completely ruined right after. Chiharu gives Tanishi a call to tell her her feelings, but she hears ringing coming from the closet. She opens the closet door with Tanishi standing there with his dick out. All Chiharu could do was sit there and laugh, tears streaming down her face. A month after that fatal incident, Tanishi is at his friend's wedding. You can clearly see the stark contrast between the two of them. Here, his friend is going to get married and start a new chapter of his life, while he sits there, nearly 30 years old with no one by his side, and he missed his opportunity with the sole person that truly liked him. At the wedding, he runs into Chiharu, but he can't muster up the courage to say anything. He can't even bring himself to apologize. Some of the wedding attendants congratulate the bride and groom on their marriage, and Tanishi begins to break down, wishing that it was his special day. When it's his turn to give congratulations, he pulls a Mordecai. He starts making it all about himself and says some embarrassing, nonsensical, and inappropriate shit, utterly humiliating himself in front of everyone. This will be his primary character flaw, running his mouth and putting himself in the worst situation possible because of it. If everything I described so far wasn't bad enough, then what comes next is probably the worst series of events to ever happen to him. It all starts on his walk to a store. He overhears the conversation of a couple. It's Chiharu, and she's with her new boyfriend. Her boyfriend isn't just some random guy either. It's Ayoyama, the guy he thought was a good friend, the guy he looked up to as a mentor, the guy who hooked him up with Chiharu in the first place. What Tanishi sees is so shocking, he doesn't even believe it's actually them at first. However, after he stalks them, he sees them go into a sex shop looking at some toys. He can't deny his own eyes anymore. This isn't a dream or a misunderstanding. He has to accept what he's seeing. He continues to stalk them and overhears their conversation. Through her dialogue, we see that Ayoyama has been a massive asshole to her, never replying to her texts and flaking on her on dates. The two get into a fight and separate. Tanishi sees this as an opportunity to finally talk to Chiharu. They finally get to clear up their grudges against each other and reconcile a bit. Even though he got to clear things up, he's still deeply jealous of her relationship. A bit after that day, Chiharu ends up getting fired and having to leave the company. The company goes on a business trip and throws a party for her leave. She plans on going back to her hometown in Nagano. On one night, she and Tanishi are alone in a room together. He asks about Ayoyama, wondering what their relationship is like after their fight. She's been dumped. Chiharu would then say the words, "I knew it. I should have gone out with you." These words are enough to motivate Tanishi to finally say what he wants to say. Maybe there's something still between them. The next morning, after months of holding it in, he finally blurts out his feelings. Now they can finally get back together. She's pregnant. Ayoyama got her pregnant. They didn't use protection because she was scared he'd break up with her. It's never been more over than it is now. Tanishi has been defeated. I can't do anything. Days later, the moment comes. The moment that made me realize that this manga was truly fucked up. Chiharu needs a male partner to sign the consent papers for an abortion. Since Ayoyama has been giving her the cold shoulder, Tanishi has to be the one to take responsibility. Tanishi is a better man than me, because if I were him in this situation, I would have pulled in OJ Simpson. This is the most frustrating panel I have ever read in a manga. Neither of these two deserve any of this. Everything between kingdom was unjustly ruined. This was the breaking point. This is where I should have stopped reading, but I just couldn't stop reading. I wanted justice. I wanted to see them come back from this. I wanted to see a happy ending. Enough was enough. Tanishi mans up and declares war against Ayoyama. He calls him using the company phone and he tells him by the end of the month, he's going to fight him. He undergoes a legitimate training arc. He's taken under the wings by a wise old mentor at his company. The old man teaches him about boxing and being in the fight. We finally get to see him get some development and grow some balls for once. The problem though is that Chiharu doesn't want him to fight. She sees him as an uninvolved third party, but there's no going back. He has to do this. One day he meets Ayoyama and his co-worker at a store. The entire interaction he's getting humiliated and mocked by them. He's barely even seen as a threat. He wants to fight Ayoyama, but he's not ready yet. This event causes Tanishi to become a bit too motivated. He takes some inspiration from Travis Bickle of all people. Yes, that Travis Bickle from Taxi Driver. He even shaves his hair and everything. No offense, but you can really tell he's lost his mind if he aspires to be like Travis. At this point, forget about boxing and do what Travis would have done.
Suck on this.
The time has come. Tanishi shows up at Ayoyama's company, but before we get to the main event, he heads to the bathroom. He overhears Ayoyama's co-worker, the same one that was making fun of him days ago. The co-worker continues to ridicule him, but he reveals something. He had also slept with Chiharu. Tanishi can't let this one slide. So for the first time in his life, Tanishi uppercuts the shit out of someone. I swear to God, I jumped out of my seat getting hyped. It was genuinely cathartic. After back-to-back losses, he finally gets this one victory. All he needed to do now was do the same to the final boss. The big showdown arrives. The perpetual loser Tanishi versus the golden boy Ayoyama. The chapters leading up to this fight gave me a bad feeling. Something in my gut told me that things would go wrong, and I was immediately proven right. Ayoyama is apparently some martial arts god. He starts moving like Eddie from Tekken, doing all sorts of kickflips off of Tanishi's head. Tanishi gets fucking manhandled and taunted throughout the fight. He has zero fighting instincts at all. He doesn't even land a single hit on him. Like, at least bite him or gouge out his eyes. Not this shit.
Stop! He's already dead.
He literally pisses himself. It gets all over Ayoyama too. Obviously, someone pissing on you would piss you off, so he delivers the killing blow. The most interesting thing about this arc is that it's a cynical satire of the Karate Kid movie. It even directly references it. This is probably what would happen to Daniel in real life. Don't get me wrong, I love Karate Kid, but you're not gonna find a Mr. Miyagi who teaches you karate through goofy house chores. You're gonna get your ass kicked like Tanishi. The manga is very anti-fantasy. Other manga is filled with escapist storybook situations, which is perfectly fine because fantasy is a big part of the appeal to fiction, but this manga rejects that for brutal realism. The reality is that sometimes life just doesn't go your way. Any other protagonist would have awoken something and fought back, but this is Tanishi we're talking about, the perpetual loser. After that loss, he says his final goodbyes to Chiharu. She's not only worried about his health, she's also worried about Ayoyama. This triggers something in Tanishi. Why does she still care about that playboy who threw her away? Tanishi just snaps and says all sorts of horrendous shit to her. She hops aboard the train heartbroken and leaves, parting ways for good. Tanishi goes through a pretty insane roller coaster after this. He loses his job, he visits Korea for a while, he meets another boxer, he loses his virginity to a Korean prostitute. I'm not making that last part up, by the way. But most importantly, he finds a new girl, Hannah, a female boxer. Honestly, she's easily the most likable character in the series. She's deaf, but she doesn't really let that discourage her from her goals. Tanishi starts training with her and establishes a bond with her. Here the manga kinda becomes about boxing for a bit. Oh yeah, this is supposed to be a manga about boxing, by the way. It says that in the description, but it's not about that at all. I'm telling you right now, he doesn't step into a professional ring once. While watching a boxing fight live, he coincidentally runs into his greatest nemesis. Ayoyama is back. You're already preparing yourself for Tanishi to get violated again. Well, at least there's not much Ayoyama could do to humiliate him even further. What the fuck am I looking at? Yeah, That's Ayoyama. What happened to him, you may ask? At first I had a crazy theory that since Tanishi got piss on his face, he got some bizarre infection, but he actually just got surgery for colon cancer and it fucked up his face. Now he has to shit in a pouch, and if he ever fights again, he'll shit everywhere. This shit was fucking hilarious to read. Seeing this douchebag get the karma he deserves was nice, but I feel like my piss theory was funnier. Even though Tanishi didn't really do anything, he technically got a win over Ayoyama. I'd rather be a loser like Tanishi than poop in a pouch for the rest of my life. Tanishi gets a more legitimate win that same night. He asks Hana to go out with him, and she actually says yes. Of course, there's a catch. She's married. But Tanishi doesn't find out about that until later on, so they still go on a date. They have one of the worst dating experiences of all time. They get into a massive fight with a bunch of thugs. The thugs try to rape Hana, but Tanishi saves the day. And he's in his underwear for some reason. He's batshit insane, man. It's honestly one of the best parts of the manga, with the two fighting with everything they got just to beat these guys. That life or death situation they just faced brings them closer together, and they share a kiss. 3 days since that date, Hana visits Tanishi for his injuries. Things are going a bit too well for them, so the mangaka goes, hey, how about I get him into a stupid argument? Tanishi finds out that she has a husband way later than he should have. Hana hasn't been hiding this information at all. In fact, she told him when he first asked her out, but he was just too excited to listen to her. She was planning on divorcing her bum-ass husband for a while too, but it just isn't enough to convince Tanishi, so they get into a fight and separate. I'm getting some deja vu here. Tanishi goes to the gym to find her and apologize, but she left to go to Nagano for a job. We spent some time with Hana on her solo journey in Nagano. Wait, why does Nagano sound familiar? It's almost as if another character went to Nagano. I wonder who? I thought we were going to move on from her, but Chiharu is back. She and Hana are now colleagues at the same art school. I wasn't looking forward to her return at all. I knew deep within my soul she was going to cause some trouble, and I was fully vindicated in this feeling because she turned into a massive bitch. She's been sleeping with a lot of the guys at her art school, even with her professor. This arc, she does some stuff that truly makes her the worst character in the entire series. She and Hana discuss their dating lives, ironically not knowing that they're talking about the same guy. She gossips about Tanishi being a creepy stalker and portrays him as some kind of villain to Hana. Good thing Hana doesn't know she's talking about Tanishi, but it's still messed up. To make it even worse, she portrays Ayoyama as some hero who protected her. I can understand shitting on Tanishi, but Ayoyama treated you like you were worthless. Why do you hold this man in such a good light? He hated you, you dumb snaggletooth cum dumpster. It's not even the worst thing she does. Hana gets a message revealing that Tanishi came all the way to Nagano on crutches. At first, Chiharu was very supportive about finding the guy she was talking about, up until she finds out it's Tanishi. Just look at the devastation on this panel. It brought me so much joy to see this bitch suffer. Seeing another woman get the romantic relationship she was supposed to get made her deeply jealous. She attempts to manipulate Tanishi by creating insecurities within the relationship. However, Tanishi sticks up for Hana, believing that she's not a girl like Chiharu. This leads to them having a huge argument about their old relationship. By the end of the argument, she kicks him out the car, but as soon as Tanishi is leaving, he sees Chiharu in the reflection, cutting herself. He quickly returns to drive her to the hospital, yet Chiharu doesn't want to go because her sister will punish her. She decides on a hotel instead. You already know where this is going to go. Driven by envy, she tries to drive a wedge between his relationship, insinuating that they should be together. Tanishi escapes to the bathroom to relieve the tension. While she's in there, Chiharu says that she cut herself again. Again, he quickly runs to help her, but she lied. She only said this to take advantage of him for the night. These two are about to do what they should have done chapters ago. She gives him a bit of the slurp and burp, though he stops it from going any further because he wants to be with Hana. It was honestly too late. She already gave you head, man. You're gonna get in trouble either way. You might as well fuck her, especially since Chiharu tells Hana about what they did later on. Once again, the cycle repeats itself. Tanishi ruined something good he had because he couldn't control his lust. It's exactly like what happened back with Shiho, a repeat of the same mistake he's made before. We're now in the final arc of the series. This is the part where the manga stops being good for me. Sure, it had issues before, but it was still an entertaining read. Now it's sort of lost its novelty. The characters start acting more irrationally than usual. The author didn't really have an idea of where to go from here, and it gets pretty aimless. There are a couple of subplots that don't really go anywhere. The only important thing that happens is the introduction of a new antagonist. Hana's abusive deadbeat husband, Gen. You can tell he's a complete scumbag by how he interacts with Hana and Tanishi. He's the kind of guy that doesn't know when to let a girl go. Despite the numerous examples of Gen being a massive bum, Hana still ends up sleeping with him. I have no idea what convinced her to do this. This is why I think the author might have a cuck fetish, because she had no reason to do this. It's all for the sake of shock value, really. Hana has been wanting to divorce him for a while, but Gen wouldn't agree to sign the papers. Because of this, Tanishi ends up getting into a fight with Gen to win over her heart. He really is a massive fucking moron. He couldn't even touch Ayoyama, but he picks a fight with a legitimate professional boxer. He loses horribly the first time, but with Hana's help the second time, he finally gets a win for once in his miserable life. He did it. He beat the bad guy and finally got the girl. I've got to talk about the ending. The manga's ending is rushed to hell. I even heard a couple rumors that it got axed earlier than it should have, which is pretty believable because the last 20 chapters are fairly uninteresting outside the final fight against Gen. There was this one kid who stayed at the boxing gym who was getting bullied at school. I never really mentioned him before for the sake of time and because I didn't really give a shit about him. The harassment deeply affected him to the point where he tried to blow him and his classmates up with a bomb. Luckily, Tanishi and Hana show up just in time to stop him, and that's it. Yeah, that's it. That's how it ends. There's like a short epilogue where Tanishi takes the blame for the bomb incident and goes to jail for 5 years. He reunites with Hana and the kid in the end. There's nothing else after that. It's such a lackluster ending. There's barely any closure for any of the characters at all. I don't even know if Tanishi and Hana are officially in a relationship. I assume they are, but they don't even hug each other or anything in the epilogue. There's a whole bunch of things I wanted to see. Do Tanishi and Hana get married and have kids? What happened to Ayoyama? Did he die from his disease? Please tell me he did. That would be fucking hilarious. I wish we got to see Chiharu end her life. I hate her so much. And where has Shiho been? She's been the catalyst for like the majority of the plot, but she disappears halfway into the manga. There's so much they could have shown, but they didn't. It's completely wasted potential. The final chapter left a sour taste in my mouth. I felt like I wasted my time reading this. I was expecting a 10 out of 10 ending that was going to change my life, but I got this chopped nigga smiling instead. But despite all that, it's a manga I will never forget. It will never leave my mind for as long as I live. So why did I talk about this manga? Well, nobody else talks about this manga. Most likely because there's no anime adaptation. It has a movie, but it's weirdly low quality. This shit looks like a Japanese porno. There's also a TV show. I can't find any footage for it at all. Is the fucking Boys on the Run TV show lost media? Are we dead ass? There's a reason why I finished this manga in less than 24 hours. It's a complete page turner. There's always something to draw you in. The drama is one of its greatest strengths, but it's also a double-edged sword. Some of the drama feels a bit contrived and forced. I also feel like the series is a bit too cynical. I get that awful things happen in the real world, but this is over-exaggerated. Tanishi wouldn't be in 85% of the horrible situations he's in if he didn't have an extra chromosome. The worst part is definitely the ending. It makes it not worth the read. You're better off just watching my video, honestly. I went through so much suffering for that dog shit ending. Moral of the story, don't be like Tanishi. Don't act like him, don't talk like him, don't even look like him. Change your appearance now. Don't waste their youth doing nothing. Don't get into fights for girls you barely even dated. And most importantly, don't get your dick sucked by a whore.